All right, so we're in Chapter 4 on page 152, Activity 23, asking questions about differences. Asking questions. So in the strategy box at the top, which is blue, asking about differences, we can use some patterns like these. I'm giving you 2 patterns to practice. There are others, but here are 2 that are very useful for you. What's the difference between A and B? You have comparison, right? You have 2 words, 2 things, 2 ideas. You can ask the difference between these 2 things. So when we use the word difference, we say difference between A and B, difference between X and Y, difference between up and down. So you have 2 words that you want to compare, and we say, what's the difference? What's means what is. We can also say what is. 2 words, what is, contraction, what's. And then we use the noun difference. I don't have to hear the s, because if I don't hear the s, it doesn't sound like a noun. All right, so difference, the CE sounds like an S. Let me hear you say, difference. What's the difference between A and B? What's the difference between A and B? We can also use the adjective. Instead of using the noun difference, we can use the word different. But then we need to use a question saying how. So we say, how are A and B different? How are A and B different? And there we have a T at the ending. So let me hear your T sound. How are A and B different? How are A and B different? All right, so if you don't pronounce clearly, you say different. I don't hear S, I don't hear T, then I don't know what word you're saying. So I want you to be careful to pronounce the final consonants as you're practicing, okay? We have a lot of words that have the T for the adjective, ENT, and ENCE for the noun, independent and independence, dependent and dependence. All right, so we have to make clear when we pronounce these words. Let's look at the model dialogues. On this page, we have model dialogue number 1. What's the difference between objective and subjective? Do you ever get confused? Yeah, people get confused about these words because we've seen these words and we know that somehow they're related to each other, but we get confused about the meaning. So you have to ask yourself, you have to ask your partner, you have to ask your friends and your classmates, you ask your teacher, ask people, what's the difference between objective and subjective? Or this might be on your test, right? Some teacher might give you this question, what's the difference between objective and subjective? And then you need to explain it. All right? Now suppose you're in the asking position. You say, what's the difference between objective and subjective? Ask again, please.
What's the difference between the object and the subjective?
All right, I want you to make sure to pronounce the words clearly. Let's try that again. What's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference between objective and subjective?
What's the difference between the objective and the subjective?
Okay. Let's work on the answer now. I gave you the answer here, so you can just practice pronouncing. Objective is based on fact and not on someone's opinion. Subjective is based on someone's opinion or feelings. Then we have an example. The researchers asked people if they felt sleepy. They just asked, okay, so do you feel sleepy? Do you feel sleepy? Do you feel sleepy? What happened? The subjects answered the questions that the researchers asked, and their answers were subjective. Yeah, so that means if I ask you, are you sleepy? And you say, yeah, I'm feeling sleepy. Then this is a subjective answer. It's from my feeling. Okay, now, on the other hand, the researchers measured How well they could do a task. Their measurements were objective. So what kind of task? Oh, maybe a mental task to calculate something. Or maybe a physical task. Maybe they gave them several small pieces and said, okay, put these pieces all in a column, or put them in rows, or put the blue ones here and the green ones there. So maybe they give them a physical task, and then they measured. So that measurement, or those measurements, are objective, means everyone can see that. But feelings we cannot see. Can we see feelings? No. We can express them with words or even with nonverbal language, but those things are subjective. Got the idea? Okay, now let's ask the second type of question. No, same type of question, but maybe a different kind of answer. And do you see that picture? Do you see, who is this? Who do we see in this picture? A driver. Yeah, a driver sleeping. Yes, and what do we say about where he's sleeping?
In the car.
Well, no, in the car. That's not a new expression. What's the new expression? What's the new expression about where he's sleeping?
That's the
At the wheel. At the wheel. Do you remember at the wheel? What does it mean at the wheel? During driving, while driving, while putting his hands, supposed to control the car with the steering wheel. That means at the wheel. If you are at the wheel, you should be controlling your vehicle. I hope. Okay? But sometimes people fall asleep at the wheel. That's not a good thing. Okay, so let's ask this question. What's the difference between snoring and yawning?
what's the difference between snoring or yawning?
Okay, I'll help you pronounce this word. Yaw-ning. Yawning. Snore. Ring. Snoring. What's the difference between snoring and yawning?
What's the difference between snoring and yawning?
Snoring is breathing noisily while asleep. Like this. Oh. You're yawning. Yawning is opening the mouth really wide and taking a deep breath like this. Oh, 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 oh. So got it? You know the difference?
Yes.
Can you show me how to snore? Give me an example. Let me see how you snore. Give me a snoring example. Okay. Okay, give me a yawning. Show me a yawning example. Really good yawn. We got some good yawns here. Okay. So, in this picture, what do you think the guy's doing? Yawning or snoring? Maybe he's snoring, but he's probably not yawning right now because it doesn't look like his mouth is open. It looks like he nodded off. He nodded off. Doesn't it look like he nodded off at the wheel? I hope his car is parked. Parked. I hope his car is parked at the curb and not in the middle of traffic. Okay, now with a partner, you're supposed to do what? Create dialogues, right? You did that for homework. So now I want you to check with your partner the dialogues that you created about differences. And you're going to use the words and the words that are in the blanks, in the parentheses, and you're making questions. And then you can make up your own answers. There's not one correct answer. There are many possible answers. So here is a place where you can be more creative in your answers. But in your questions, make sure that they follow the grammatical patterns that you've been presented in this lesson. Okay? Wait just a moment. I'll give you a partner.